You hear me, John?
Yes,
Okay. So should we start?
please.
Okay. There are people who see danger everywhere and in everything that is new to them. These people have drawn the unfavorable conclusion that some of those who have turned to Spiritism have lost all sense of reason. How could rational people consider this a serious argument? Doesn't a loss of reason also occur when weak minds are overwhelmed in any intellectual pursuit? Who can say how many have gone mad over mathematics, medicine, music, philosophy, and others? Are those studies to be denounced on that account? What does that prove? Arms and legs, the instruments of physical activity, are often injured by physical labor. The brain, the instrument of thought, is often impaired by intellectual labor. Although the instrument may be injured, the spirit remains intact, and when freed from matter, regains full possession of its faculties. In this matter, it may be said that human beings often succumb as martyrs to labor. Intense mental application of any kind may induce mental illness, whether science, art, or religion, all having produced their respective share of enlightened minds being driven insane. The predisposing cause of madness is to be found in the brain that renders it more or less accessible to certain impressions. When the predisposition to insanity exists, its manifestations takes on the character of the pursuit which forms a fixed idea. This fixed idea may be that of the spirits, for those who have been deeply captivated by Spiritism or by God, angels, the demon, fortune, power, art, science, eternity, or political or social system. It is likely that a religious fanatic would have gone mad over Spiritism if it had been his or her predominant mental occupation. Likewise, a person who goes mad over Spiritism in other circumstances would go mad over something else. We therefore assert that Spiritism does not prompt insanity and that it actually protects against insanity when correctly understood. Among the most common causes of cerebral overstimulation, one must consider the disappointments, misfortunes, scattered hope, and other troubles of human life, which are also the most common causes of suicide. However, true spiritists view the things of this world from such an elevated point of view that they seem petty in comparison with the future they see before them. Life appears so fleeting that its misfortunes are, in their eyes, merely unpleasant bumps along the road. What would produce violent emotions in the mind of another only affects them slightly. They know that the sorrows of life are trials that further our advancement if endured with resignation, and that they are rewarded according to the courage with which they have accepted them. Their convictions help shield them from despair and consequently from a frequent cause of madness and suicide. Through spirit communications, they also know the fate of those who voluntarily shorten their lives, which gives pause for serious reflections. The number of those who have been stopped on the downward spiral is significant. This is one of the results of Spiritism. Non-believers may laugh as much as they like. We only wish them the consolation it provides to people who have delved into its mysterious depths. Among the causes of insanity, one must include fear. Fear of the devil has deranged many minds and can say how many feeble minds have fallen victim to the devil after having been shown hideous and detailed pictures. It is sometimes said that the devil only frightens little children to make them well behaved, like the boogeyman and the werewolf. When these Mythical creatures have lost their power. Those who have been subjected to this sort of training are likely to be worse off than before. People employ these methods and reach mediocre results. They overlook the risk of epilepsy entailed in such disturbing action on the delicate brain of a child. Religion would be weak if its power could only be sustained by fear. Fortunately, this is not the case, as there are other means of acting on the soul. Spiritism provides a more effective and serious support than superstitious terror, if it is able to put this theory to use. It shows that reality of things and neutralizes the disastrous effects of unreasonable fear.
Thanks.
Okay.
So here, what we have is a different aspect of what Kardec was discussing before. But here, what we have is something that until nowadays we still hear, which is the argument that these things makes you crazy. These things can make you crazy. These crazy ideas can drive you mad. In a sense, we know, we all have seen these people talking to themselves in streets, and especially nowadays with the cell phones, they can disguise better. But before cell phones, we could clearly see people talking to themselves in the streets, and we call them crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, many of those, actually the vast majority, what they are mediums that have an opening window to the spiritual world and don't know how to control it and how to discern between what is in the physical world and what is in the spiritual world. So with that still existing today, and because spiritism and mediumship is not well spread and known throughout the world, we can see and understand why detractors would think that this thing of talking to spirits make people go crazy. But in reality, what Kardec says here very, very clearly is, first, it's not only you can find this anywhere. And I was remembering that movie, A Beautiful Mind, with a famous mathematician, right? That started seeing spirits and was seeing spirits and became a little bit disturbed. I forgot his name now. I know you guys remember his name.
Yeah.
This happened to him with mathematics, right? We see people becoming mentally disturbed with other things also. I learned, I have a family member who is bipolar, and I learned that a characteristic of a bipolar is to become fanatical on whatever they choose to dedicate themselves. So they decide to study, let's say, yoga, they become fanaticals with yoga. If they decided to follow a religion, which is pretty much a case many times, they become fanatical with that religion. So the Spiritism actually does not cause anyone to become mentally disturbed. On the contrary, Spiritism helps a lot of people understand their troubles, understand what's happening to them, and prevent them from getting worse with a problem that they have. And as Kardec says here later, that anything that they pursue, they would have this issue. We have in Brazil psychiatric hospitals, spiritist psychiatric hospitals that combine the mental treatment with spiritism in terms of teachings and in terms of passes and this sort of things that help and assist many of those that are struggling with his mental issues. So all that Kardec said 160 years ago actually still happens. Of course, the knowledge that they had at that time and some of the things he says here is not exactly that. But when he says that intense mental application of any kind may induce mental illnesses, it's not exactly that, but it's what we see in A Beautiful Mind is the dedication of him and his idea of, his only concern was for his discoveries, and ended up aggravating a condition, a mental condition that he already had. And actually, a lot of these brilliant minds, they have some sort of difficulties in terms of mental challenges to live in a normal world, because their brains are so much focused on one area that they end up disregarding the rest of the areas and may end up having problems. But what Spiritism does is exactly the opposite, helping them understand the reality of us as eternal beings, the reality of life in the spiritual world, so creates hope for the future, and it gives the understanding of the communications with the spiritual world. For those that have these issues of seeing spirits, hearing spirits, it can assist on them learning how to control these factors. What we always tell people, we see a lot of people coming to the Spiritist Center when they have these mediumistic manifestations, and one of the first questions they ask is, how can I get rid of it? And unfortunately, you cannot get rid of it, but you can educate, learn to control, learn how to live with it, and have a normal life having mediumship, which, we've seen cases and we have experiences in our center in these years of people that came very unbalanced and learn how to control their mediumship. And we have some of them working in a mediumship meeting nowadays. We have some that left us, and we have one beautiful case of a woman that was with us for the first 10 years. That she was the one that was speaking to people in the street, telling people what they had to do, going to and during the subway travel, telling them that there was someone that wanted to say something to them. And after she started studying with us, she learned more about Spiritism. She understood mediumship. She learned how to control it better. Does she still has this ability? Yes, she's a medium. She cannot get rid of it. But now she knows how to deal with it. She knows how she can live with it. It still bothers her a little bit. She has such a strong mediumship that, yes, it bothers her a little bit. But she knows she's not crazy. And second, she knows that it's something that she has to live with and she can control it. So in reality, Spiritism really helps on the other way, helps control these problems, helps to minimize these problems, and help assisting these people. Okay. Let's see what else Kardec says here. I think that's it, basically.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments, Elmo?
Yeah, I have a comment. Let's assume that these arguments are really sincere. Those individuals really have a fear that Spiritism causes or have the potential of lead someone into insanity. And let's take to today, no longer Kardec times, to today's time. One would ask, what is the argument? What is the basis? What is the basis of such a danger? What leads you to think that Spiritism can cause someone to become insane? And if you look at today's days, we can look around at all the spirituals that you see around us, especially in Brazil. Then the spiritism is, it's not a religion, but when counted as religion, is one with the greatest number per percentage of graduated members by far, by very far. Is the one that produces the greatest number of charity than any other group, religious group, by far. So there is no basis. This argument is completely dead. One word that Kardec uses and very important here is prerequisite. As Ron explained, if I already have a tendency, some psychiatric undiagnosed condition that leads me to overdo things, to get into fanaticism, it will happen if I get into spiritism, if I get into mathematics, if I get into sports, if I get into yoga, whatever it is. There is something there that is already likely undiagnosed, okay, that leads us to that insanity, and not spiritism. As Kardec says over here, any other activity can lead to insanity when it's overdone by someone who already have the prerequisite, something undiagnosed that leads them to overdo things. And if the person picks spiritism, will overdo spiritism. And spiritism is the first one to say we need rest. You need to control ourselves.
Yes. So someone asked me in private here if I cannot get rid of mediumship, where is the free will? Free will is, and I invite you to watch my lecture about free will on Saturday that I'm going to give to the United States Spirit Federation, and we are going to talk about that. But you know, when you have some physical body qualities, defects, or imperfections, you know, your free will not allow you to get rid of it because it comes with a physical body. Mediumship is something that comes with the physical body. It's not the spirit that is a medium. It is an ability that the physical body allows the spirit to, the incarnated spirit to have. So you cannot get rid of it because it's who you are. You know, you cannot, you know, if you are 6 foot tall, you cannot become 5.5 foot tall or 6.5 foot tall because it's part of your physical body. So you cannot control it, even if you have free will and you would like to be taller or be shorter. It's not an option. And mediumship is the same thing. It comes with the physical body, and you know, you have to live with it. But what you can is educate it, control it, learn how to control it, and learn how to use it in a productive way, right?
Yeah.
Anything to add here, Elmo?
Free will.
Mediumship is physical, not mental.
Free will is such a complex, difficult thing to say in 2 minutes. It needs a whole lecture to go through it. But I would say free will basically was you make the deal, or you accepted to come in with that extra sensorial ability. Now you have to use it or ignore it. The free will was when you accepted to come in as a medium, or was given to you the opportunity to be a medium, and you took it.
And I'm going to talk about it on Saturday, so I'm not going to go further here on free will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ô, João,
Yes, Renato.
but we study cases where people that have mediumship, and sometimes they are abusing or not doing using a productive way, that quote unquote the mediumship is taken from them or become dormant or whatever it is.
Yes.
So in those cases that the person wants to get rid of the mediumship, wouldn't that be cases where spirits or something can make that become dormant or being taken from those people that don't want it?
There are two things here, Renato. First is the mediumship is a physical ability. So if you have it, you have it. Now, the ability to communicate with the spirits have two sides, right? You may have the ability, but if no spirit wants to communicate with you or through you, then you have the ability and you cannot use it. That's how the spirits would be preventing you from using it, in a simplest explanation.
Okay.
Right? Make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I would rather you to elaborate a little bit more, but I get the point.
Well, mediumship actually is an opportunity for us to do good to others and to evolve. It's an opportunity that we choose to have it before our incarnation, or it is chosen for us to have because it's a better way for us to progress. If we are misusing this this ability that we have, the spirits may decide that it's in our best interest for us no longer to have it. So the ability to use it. So, we have spirits around us all the time. They can, in a way, prevent the communications from happening. You still have the mediumship, but the mediumship is a two-way street. If there is no one on the other side of the street, you cannot use it.
So in those people that they are seeing in the streets and quote unquote going crazy, even though to the outside looking in, it seems that it's not a good thing, is the best way for them to evolve or whatever is the reason why they're developing that, right?
Yeah, there is a purpose. It's difficult to say what's the reason, right? Everything happens for a reason, and they are going through this trial for a reason. Sometimes, they have this because they need to search for solutions for their problem, but they refuse to do so. This lady that used to go to our center that I mentioned before, the spirits directed her to our center by herself. She woke up one morning, she was told by the spirit, you have to go here and there. You take the subway, you go to Manhattan, and you go to this place and to that place, and she ended up finding us through the spirit. So, she listened. She may have refused to listen to them, decided to stay home, was a Saturday or Sunday, I don't know. And and continue to have these difficulties that she had. She listened to them and ended up finding a guidance or a solution or instructions on how to deal with her issue. So we all have protection and guidance, and we all have the spirits trying to assist us, but we have to want to listen to them. Again, free will, and I'll talk about it on Saturday.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, now it's a different thing that Kardec talks about here. So let's go.
Okay. Two arguments still need to be investigated and are the only ones truly deserving of this name because they are founded on rational theories. Both admit the reality of the material and moral phenomenon of Spiritism, but they deny the intervention of spirits. According to the first of these theories, all manifestations attributed to spirits are merely effects of animal magnetism, also known as mesmerism. Mediums are in a state that might be called somnambulism. a phenomenon that is likely to have been observed by anyone who has studied animal magnetism. In this state, the intellectual faculties acquire abnormal development, and the circle of our intuitive perceptions extends beyond its ordinary limits. Mediums find in themselves through their lucidity everything that they say and all the notions transmitted by them, even with regard to subjects with which they are completely unfamiliar in their regular state of consciousness. We do not dispute the power of somnambulism, a type of slight hypnotism, whose wonders we have witnessed and studied for more than 35 years. We admit that many spirits' manifestations may be explained by such, but we maintain that sustained and attentive observation reveals a host of events in which any intervention by the medium, other than as a passive instrument, is categorically impossible. To those who attribute these phenomena to magnetism, we say, see and observe, for you will have surely not seen everything. We will also ask them to consider the two following points suggested by their own theory. What is the origin of Spiritist theory? Is it a system invented by a few individuals to account for certain events? Not at all. Then who suggested it? The very mediums whose lucidity you praise, if their rationality is what you declare it to be. Why should they attribute to spirits what they have derived from themselves? How can they have given such precise, logical, and inspiring information in regard to the nature of those superhuman beings? Either mediums are lucid or they are not. If they are, and if we trust their authenticity, we cannot think that they are wrong with regard to this point without being contradictory. Second, if all the phenomena originated from the mediums themselves, they would always be identical for that particular medium. We would never find the same medium employing different languages, various styles of expression, or making contradictory statements. If anything, the lack of unity so often observed in the manifestations obtained by the same medium is proof of the variety of sources. And as the cause of this diversity is not found in the medium, it must be sought elsewhere. According to another opinion, mediums are the real source of manifestations. They do not derive them from themselves, as the supporters of the somnambulist theory assert. Instead, they derive them from the individuals around them. The medium acts like a mirror, reflecting all the thoughts, ideas, and knowledge of those around him or her, and therefore says nothing that is nothing known at least one of them. One of the fundamental principles of Spiritism is that those who are present exercise some influence on the manifestations. This cannot be denied. However, this influence is very different from the hypotheses that we are considering, and in no way supports the idea that mediums are the echo of the thoughts of those around them. There are thousands of facts and events that directly prove the contrary. This is a serious error and shows the danger of hasty conclusions. People who are unable to deny the reality of a phenomenon that current science is unable to explain, and who are also unwilling to admit the presence of spirits, have to find their own way to explain it. Their theory would be superficially plausible if it explained all the facts, but it cannot do this. Based on the evidence of facts, it has been proven that a medium's communications are often entirely foreign to their thoughts, knowledge, and even the opinions of those who are present. These communications are frequently spontaneous and contradict all preconceived ideas. Of course, non-sayers are not discouraged by such a slight difficulty. They maintain that the radiation of thought extends far beyond the circle immediately around us. Mediums are the reflection of humanity in general. So if they do not draw their inspiration from those around them, they derive it from those who are further away in the town or country in which they live, from people in the rest of the globe, and even from those of other worlds. This theory does not provide a more simple and probable explanation than that given by Spiritism, for it assumes a cause that is much more spectacular. The idea that universal space is populated by beings who are in perpetual contact with us and who communicate their ideas to us is certainly not more objectable than the hypothesis of universal radiation, coming from every point of the universe and conveying in the brain of one person. Once again, and in this a point that we cannot stress enough, somnambulist theory and that which may be called the reflective theory are products of the imagination of human minds. These are individual opinions created to explain an event. However, the human mind did not conceive Spiritism. It was dictated by the manifesting intelligences themselves. This occurred at a time when no one thought of spirits, and the opinion of most humanity was opposed to such a hypothesis. We first need to ask from where the mediums could have derived the theory that never existed in the mind of anyone on the globe. We also ask by what strange coincidence the tens of thousands of mediums across the entire globe and unknown to one another all agree in proclaiming the same idea. If the first medium that appeared in France was influenced by opinions already accepted in the United States, what led this person to search for ideas across the ocean in a nation whose values and language were foreign to his or her own, instead of adopting those in his or her immediate vicinity? There is yet another circumstance that merits further attention. The earliest manifestations in France, as in the United States, were not written or oral, but were transmitted through rapping or knocking that had indicated the letters of the alphabet, forming words and sentences. This is how the communicating intelligences declared themselves to be spirits. Although we admit the involvement of the medium's mind in the production of verbal or written communications, we cannot attribute the same involvement on the part of the medium in producing rapping or knocks. The medium could not have known them beforehand. Any number of facts could be cited that prove the existence of clear individuality and an absolutely independent will on the part of the communicating intelligence. We challenge our antagonists to observe the phenomenon in question more carefully. We assure them that if they study these events objectively and refrain from drawing any conclusions until they have thoroughly studied the subjects, they will find that their theories are inadequate to account for all of the phenomena that have occurred. We will only pose the following two questions. Why do the communicating intelligences often refuse to answer certain questions in regard to well-known matters, such as the name or age of the axer, what they may have in their hand and what they did yesterday, or what they intend to do the following day? If mediums are mirrors reflecting the thoughts of those around them, answering these questions should be simple. Our critics counter by inquiring why spirits who should know everything are unable to answer simple questions as dictated by the adage. He who can do the most can do the least, and conclude from this assumed inability that the phenomenon cannot be caused by spirits. If an ignorant or foolish person were to stand before an academic council and ask why it is light out in the middle of the day, would reply be given? Would it be reasonable to conclude from the derision or silence with which such a question might be received that its members were merely imbeciles? It is precisely because they are a higher level than us that spirits decline to answer idle and foolish questions. This is why they are silent when such questions are asked, or they advise us to focus on more serious subjects. We also would ask why spirits come and go as they please, and why after they leave, neither prayers nor pleas can bring them back. If mediums were acted upon solely by the mental impulsion of those around them, the union of their wills would stimulate their clairvoyance in such a case. If they do not yield to the wishes of people gathered around them, even when strengthening by their own desire, it is because they obey a power that is separate from themselves and those around, a power that asserts its own independence and individuality.
Thanks, Soraya. It was a long one.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, all right, I feel sad for you.
it's okay.
So here, Kardec's talking about two arguments that still need to be investigated, and they are the last two ones, okay? Because this is the next to last item on the introduction.
Yes.
And first, and these two relate to the theory that the phenomena is produced by the mediums themselves. So we wouldn't call them mediums in that sense, and not by spirits. So the first of this theory is that the spirits, the manifestations attributed theoretically to spirits are merely effects of animal magnetism or mesmerism, okay? Mesmerism is a term utilized in relation to Dr. Franz Mesmer, who researched animal magnetism and believed it to be an invisible natural magnetic force exerted by animals and humans. He believed that this force could have physical effects and be utilized in healing. Kardec was studied mesmerism for many years before Spiritism, studied magnetism, and knew how to work with magnetism. And he says here he studied it together with hypnotism and somnambulism for over 35 years. So the precursors of Spiritism, in a sense, that was how Kardec prepared himself for the task of codifying Spiritism. So he understands quite well how this works. So for him to move away from it as he did, and we still today have people that want to connect Kardec to magnetism and mesmerism much more than he was connected later in life, because later in life he did not move away magnetism or mesmerism in any form, but he went way beyond it. So he used Spiritism as a complement and an addition, a huge addition to the knowledge he had on magnetism and mesmerism. So what he's saying here is that to say that this is provoked by our state of trance, which is what somnambulism is a slight hypnotism or a state of trance, and disregard the presence of spirit is, it's kind of, as he says, it's almost impossible, right? He's saying what the medium is saying there. It's very difficult if the medium has no knowledge of it, and by answering questions, different questions in different forms, accessing things and answering to things that the medium have no knowledge beforehand, sometimes giving contradictory answers for the same question asked at different times. You cannot expect this from a person, right? You can change your mind, but you cannot keep changing your mind all the time. So what Kardec is telling us, and he continues that on the second part and the second question when we enter into the universal thought, is that sometimes these people try to make it more difficult to answer things that are simple. Because to admit the presence of spirits and to admit that the spirits are communicating is the simplest answer. Everything beyond that you start to complicate things to find explanations for things that are not possible to find explanations. That's what Kardec is trying to say. You know, if you don't believe in communications from the spirits, fine, just stay with it. But don't try to find convoluted explanations for what happens to mediums that make it more difficult to understand than the simplest answer, which is there is an external person, spirit/spirit, communicating through the spirit. Now, the second part, the mediums are kind of receiving these thoughts of individuals around them, the universal mind that brings the communication through the spirits, which is a very complicated theory also. You know, one thing that is important to mention here, later we use the term animism, and for those who do not know the term animism, is the communication, the part of the communication that comes from the medium itself. There is no communication that is 100% from the spirit. A good medium, a very good medium, will receive a communication and it will be 98, 99% from the spirit and 1-2% from the medium themselves. A good medium maybe will be 90% from the spirit, 10% from the medium, because it has to go through the mediums, as we studied last week, last Sunday in the medium Mystic of Intelligent Effects that me and Elmo presented, that it goes through the medium, through the spirit of the medium, through the perispirit of the medium. So the medium has some sort of influence of what comes out. If the spirit wants to speak give the communication in Japanese, and the medium has no Japanese in the present or previous incarnations, nothing will come out. The spirit cannot, the medium cannot communicate in Japanese. If it has a Japanese in a previous incarnation, then the medium may be able to give the communication in Japanese, even if they don't speak Japanese in the present incarnation. So there is always the influence of the medium, but the influence of the medium is not really relevant in most of the communications. So that to conclude, to create a very complicated theory that there is a connection between all the minds of the world and the medium is receiving these thoughts from minds that are out there in the universe, you know, it's just simpler just to say, yes, there are a lot of spirits in the universe and the communication is coming from the spirits. It's the simplest answer. So in the end, Kardec talks about if it really comes from the spirits, why the spirits sometimes refuse to answer or sometimes give answers that are, in a sense, stupid answers. He didn't say that, but that's what he meant. And there are two things there, right? The spirits, they will answer serious questions. If we answer, if we ask silly questions, silly spirits will come and try to answer. Serious spirits, if we are in the middle of a serious communication, and then we ask the spirit, what's your favorite color? You know, they may get upset with the distraction and stop communicating altogether, or you know, refusing to answer the questions because we're not there. You know, if you are in a serious lecture at a college class, right, and you are watching someone teaching about quantum physics, and then you raise your hand and you ask the presenter what's his favorite color. Do you think he's going to take you seriously? Do you think he is going to give you an answer? He shouldn't, right? Because it has nothing to do with the seriousness of the discussion, right? Or what's your soccer team? You know, there is a place for questions. So when we ask silly questions, we would have spirits, or serious spirits will move away and mocking spirits will come and give the answers. So that's what Kardec was trying to say here when you start asking, you know, what I was thinking yesterday, what I was doing yesterday, when is my birthday? The spirits are not interested in that. And if we still have to ask them these questions to prove that there is something in someone else, they will leave and allow less evolved spirits to occupy their space, because there is never an empty space. So if serious spirits move away, less serious spirits will come and join the conversation. So Kardec says here, questions that are, you know, the beginning of the phenomena. Nobody was thinking that when the rap started and the noises, nobody was thinking that it came from spirits. They was first, the sisters Fox, they were scared. They didn't know what was going on there. They start thinking maybe there is a ghost here, and they start communicating with the ghost. And then they start finding out that it was someone that was murdered in the house, and so on and so forth. So it was the spirits themselves who told us of their existence and their presence. It was not our supposition. It's the answers that were given by them. So, you know, in all, what Kardec is trying to say here is, don't get too complicated. Let's go to the simplest answer. For us to accept that there are spirits in the spiritual world, there are just us on the other side, individuals that lived on earth and now are back to the spiritual world and are able to communicate with us, that's all the simplest answer. And that's, you know, we should either accept that or forget about the curiosity of understanding better this, because these people are going to try to find very complicated theories to explain a very simple thing. And that's what Kardec was trying to say here. Okay? Comments, questions?
João,
Yes, Renato.
Sorry, the animals is part of the development of the medium, or is just something that and then it goes away, or something that follows through?
Stays. This is part of the medium. So you know, you may have a communication. You can actually have a communication that is 100% anemic. It's a communication by you yourself that you are not aware, but we have previous existences, right? So we have knowledge that doesn't come to us in this present incarnation. So sometimes you may be given a communication that looks like from a spirit, and maybe you yourself giving the communication. Again, that's not the subject here, and we're not going to go much further to this. But animism is a part of the communications of the mediums. It was a taboo in Brazil 50 years ago. It started to be a persecution to all mediums, because they start criticizing all mediums, saying that there is a lot of animism, and eventually we learn that animism is part of the communications. We should live with it. What we should try to do is to give the medium the space to give the communication and analyze the communication. If it's good, the communication, does it matter if it's 80-20, 90-10, or 99-1? Because there is always some part that belongs to the medium. Doesn't really matter. What matters is the message itself. So you know, there is always animism. Because you don't cease to be yourself, and being yourself and a medium, there is going to be part of you in each communication. Okay.
Yeah. And you mentioned when the mediums, for example, speaking in Japanese or whatever language that he's not aware on this incarnation but has in previous incarnation. So would be the medium be in unconscious level? Because if the spirit is speaking with them in Japanese, he will not understand because it doesn't have right now. So in order to speak in different language or show a different ability, would the medium be in a kind of an unconscious or deep trance?
Unconscious or semi-conscious, right? Because the semi-conscious, as the communication comes out, the medium become aware of it. The conscious one, yes, you are right, that will be difficult because if the medium doesn't speak Japanese. But the semi-conscious is possible because the communication is coming and the medium is just passing the communication, becoming aware of it as the communication is coming out. Right, Elmo?
Yeah.
Yes, can I just say
Yes.
also I had an experience when I was about 12 years old that I woke up in the middle of the night in my grandmother's house speaking German, but I had no recollection of that. But there were my grandmother, my uncle, and my cousin. They were all present, and they stayed with me until like 5 in the morning until I came back and started speaking Portuguese again. But I don't remember this, but it was a story that everybody would tell in my family. So, but I was unconscious. But during sometimes on Mondays, we had, I remember one request of somebody coming to speak in Italian, and I didn't. And then after the session, I remember asking Giussara if it was okay to give it in Italian, but I don't remember her answer. But probably because everything was in English on Mondays. So that's it.
Yeah, thanks, Fabio. Yeah, I saw one many years ago before SGNY in another group that the communication came. I'm not sure what was the language, was either Russian or Czech or something like that, and the medium didn't speak the language, gave all the communication. There was nobody else in the room that understood anything, and we saw it was an interesting communication, and we questioned ourselves why. So, and the answer could be as a proof for all the members of the group. Maybe some members of the group were having doubts, and so it's a proof that it can happen. And also sometimes the spirit just needs to vent and needs to give the message. Doesn't really need to have a conversation or anything. So it just the message came out. Nothing. Nobody understood anything, not even the medium who was giving the message, and that was the end of it. So we can discuss a lot why it happened, but it happens, and I saw it. I have experience with it.
Mm.
Yeah. Anything else, Elmo?
No.
So there is only one item left, but I think we have 3 minutes left. So I think we're going to leave this item for next week, plus the prolegomena, which is, if you don't know what the word means, you do like Divaldo and go look in the dictionary. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it next week, his story on the prolegomena, which is always a story that we always mention when we get to the prolegomena, right? And many of you heard the story before, but it's always good story for the ones that haven't heard it before, the story of Divaldo and the prolegomena. But that's for next week. Any additional comments, questions here?
No.
Okay. So, as I mentioned during the meeting this Saturday, you are stuck with me again on the lecture. The United States Spiritist Federation, the lecture will be at 11 a.m. will be on free will that I'm going to present. So you're all invited if you're not tired of me still. you're invited to watch this lecture, and we are going to discuss free will. And you can ask questions. You can have, you know the format there. You've been there before, right? So you're all invited. This Sunday is the 5th Sunday of the month. So whenever we have a 5th Sunday, we normally, what we do is do the Q&A in the 5th Sunday instead of doing it after the study of the first Sunday. So this Sunday we are going to have our Q&A. Please have your questions, bring your questions, because last Q&A, we finished earlier because we didn't have anyone else asking questions. Me and Elmo, we're not going to ask questions to each other. So if you don't bring any questions, we are going to have a very quick meeting. I know Carol already told me that she has a question that she saved for Sunday. So at least we have one to start. So Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, certainly. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, John. Thank you, Elmo. Excellent. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we are grateful to be together this evening to share in the study of the Spirit's book, parts 15 and part 16 in the introduction. We are grateful for what we have learned, what we have received, and what we know to be an in-depth study of mediumship and the spirits. We are grateful for what we have received, and may we continue with this in our next week's study. We give thanks to our spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, the mentors of SGNY. We are grateful for their support, their guidance, their love, helping us to continue to navigate our teachings, to learn, to discover, and to improve our self-discovery. We are grateful throughout the week, and may we continue with our prayers, with our studies, and our mindfulness as we go forward. May we do so with an open heart and open mind, and may we ask our spiritual benefactors to guide us in the ways of the teaching. May we always be of service, and may we be helpful to others as we do our part. And we close now, and we humbly ask for safety and protection as we go forth to family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. We are never alone. We are always supported as we do our part. We ask to receive the love and light of Christ within us, to inspire us, to guide us, and to continue on the higher road in this lifetime. We close now, and we ask to be beacons of light. We close humbly and in being protected to go forth as in peace. So be it.